Welcome back to Wainsider, the place where we cut through the noise and dig into the heart of the stories shaping the wrestling world. Tonight, we witnessed something that can only be described as monumental, a night where history collided with destiny. Roman Reigns returned to Monday Night Raw, and with him, the landscape of WWE has changed once again. For months, whispers filled arenas and online spaces. Fans wondered if Roman was finished, if the Tribal Chief era had quietly ended. Injuries, silence, and distance created doubt, and even the most loyal of his followers began to wonder if we had seen the last of his dominance. The Usos carried their weight in fragments, scattered across SmackDown and Raw, but the absence of Roman always left a void. Without him, the family structure felt incomplete, fractured, vulnerable. Please like, share and subscribe for more WWE content. And then came Jacob Fatu, the wild card. The enforcer. A man whose presence alone sends shockwaves through any locker room. Fans speculated, but never truly knew, when his fire would align with Roman's vision. Tonight, those questions were answered in brutal fashion. The show began with an uneasy calm. Seth Rollins' new faction strutted with arrogance, carrying themselves like the kings of a kingdom they had not yet earned. With Bron and Bronson at his side, Seth stood like a general prepared to enforce his empire. But the crowd felt restless. There was an unspoken expectation, as though the air itself held its breath. And then, it happened. The unmistakable sound of Roman Reigns' theme thundered across the arena, and the world stopped for a heartbeat. The audience erupted. It wasn't just a pop. It was catharsis. It was release. It was thousands of voices screaming in unison, "Welcome back." Roman walked slowly, the aura of a man who had carried the weight of generations etched into every step. Flanking him were the Usos, their eyes sharper than ever, their loyalty burning like fire. Behind them loomed Jacob Fatu, a storm contained only by family ties, waiting to be unleashed. This wasn't a return, it was a reckoning. Roman didn't rush, he didn't need to. Every step down that ramp was a statement. His gaze, locked on Seth Rollins, told the story of years of rivalry, betrayal, and silent resentment. This wasn't about a match. This was about ownership. Seth tried to laugh it off, a nervous grin flickering across his face. Bron cracked his knuckles, and Bronson planted himself like a wall. They believed their numbers made them safe. They were wrong. For a few tense moments, nothing happened. Roman stood across the ring, microphone in hand, but said nothing. The silence stretched like a blade, cutting through the bravado of Seth's crew. And then, without warning, chaos erupted. The Usos dove first, fists flying with the fury of brothers defending blood. Jacob Fatu followed, a whirlwind of violence that dismantled Reed with bone-shaking force. Roman entered last, calmly, deliberately, like a king reclaiming his throne. He struck Breakker with a spear that sent the young lion crashing to the mat, a thunderclap heard around the world. Bronson, usually immovable, fell victim to a double superkick from the Usos before Jacob Fatu finished him with a crushing Samoan splash. The ring shook, and so did the foundation of Seth's so-called faction. Seth Rollins found himself cornered. For all his charisma, all his bravado, the look in his eyes told the truth: fear. Roman stared him down, face to face, no words spoken, only years of betrayal hanging between them. But Roman didn't strike, he didn't need to. Instead, he whispered something only Seth could hear, before turning his back and leaving him broken in spirit. The message was clear: Roman doesn't just fight battles. He ends empires. Backstage, whispers carried quickly. Talent and staff alike knew this wasn't just another segment. This was a power shift. The bloodline, once thought fractured, had returned with a vengeance. Stronger, sharper, more dangerous. Jacob Fatu's debut alongside Roman wasn't just shocking, it was symbolic. A reminder that the Samoan dynasty runs deeper than anyone realizes, and when united, they are unstoppable. The Usos, once torn apart by betrayal, now looked more unified than ever. Their eyes burned with purpose, as though Roman's return had restored their faith and direction. And Seth Rollins, his faction, once touted as the future of Raw, collapsed in real time. Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed were left broken and humiliated, their rise halted by a family legacy they could never outrun. The locker room felt it. The fans felt it. A line had been drawn in the sand. Roman Reigns wasn't just back. He was sending a message to the entire industry: the bloodline still reigns supreme. But beneath the triumph lies the deeper story. The story of pressure, of carrying the weight of family, of resentment unspoken. Roman's return is not just about dominance. It's about the scars of leadership, the cracks of betrayal, and the cost of loyalty. Trust once broken takes years to rebuild. Roman turned his back on his own family before. Tonight, he brought them back together. But how long can such fragile unity last under the crushing weight of expectation? The wrestling world now watches in anticipation, torn between admiration and fear. The Bloodline's resurgence promises chaos, but it also raises questions. How much betrayal can blood endure before it spills? For every spear Roman delivers, for every splash Jacob Fatu lands, there lingers the reminder that power is temporary, but resentment is permanent. And when it lives within family, it burns deeper than any rivalry. So tonight, we close with reflection. Roman Reigns has returned, not just as the tribal chief, but as the symbol of a dynasty reborn. Yet in every triumph, there is shadow. In every embrace, there is doubt. In every victory, there is the seed of betrayal. This is more than wrestling. This is family. And family, as Roman Reigns has shown us once again, is both the source of our greatest strength and the cause of our deepest wounds.